Demonstration Nugget, Access, and Authorization. Hello everyone, this is Ben Finkel, and in this nugget we're going to demonstrate how you can set up your access and authorization for your Google Cloud SQL instances using both the web UI as well as the gcloud SDK command utility. Then we'll go ahead and connect to our instance from a couple of different methods. First, let's take a look at how we can set up access and authorization through the Google Cloud console here at cloud.google.com. Go ahead and open your browser, navigate to that page, sign in if you need to, and select Go to My Console. Once you're here, select the project you want to work with. I'm going to work with GSQL Nuggets. Scroll down to the Storage option, expand it, and select Cloud SQL. Here you're going to see all the instances that already exist inside of your project. If you don't have any, go ahead and create a new one to work with throughout this demo. I'm going to select D1 instance here, and we're going to work in the access control panel of options. You can see there's actually three tabs here. We've got Overview, which is just general overview of our instance, Operations, which is like a log of operations that have been performed against our instance, and Access Control. That's what we're going to look at now. Of course, like it sounds like, it controls access. So a couple of different options that we need to work with here. First, we are going to request an IP address. This is going to get us an IP address assigned to our instance. All we do is click the button, and a moment later it comes back with an IP address that we can use. Now it gives us a note that we have not assigned any networks, or we've not authorized any networks to connect yet. So we also have to make sure that we do that. We come down here to Authorize Networks and simply click the Add Authorized Network button. Now here we can put a whole subnet, we can use CEDAR ranges and everything. I'm just going to authorize or whitelist the IP address of my local desktop. I'm going to follow this little link they give me. What's my IP? There's my IP address. I'm going to copy it onto the clipboard and paste it right in here. Click Add. Now I've got an authorized network to access this instance. So I've got an access point through my IP address. I've got a whitelisted external third-party instance that can access. And the last thing I need to do is set a root password. There's no users on this database yet. There's only a root user, but there's not even a root user until I create the root password. So I'll go ahead and make my root password. I'm going to make it Ben is cool. Seems like a good password. Click Set, and a moment later, my root password has been changed, and now I can connect to my instance from a third-party connection. If I bounce back to my main page here, I can see the IP address listed with this instance now that I had assigned to it. And note that I didn't get to choose what IP address I had. I clicked Assign IP, it chose an IP address for me. So I want to write this down now, take note of it so I can use it later. We can also do everything we've done here through the command line, through the gcloud SDK utility. Let's take a look at how we do that. I'm just going to call gcloud SQL instances, let's call patch to begin with, D2-instance. That doesn't have an IP address yet. All I need to do is use the switch --assign-IP. This is going to give me an IP address assigned to my D2 instance. Click Enter, give it a second to run, and once it's finished, you see here patching cloud instance done. I can see that now I've got an IP address assigned to my instance. It's listed both here in the web UI, as well as if I look at the details, I can see it. Oh no, I've got to describe my instance here in the command line before I can see it in the command line. So that's gcloud SQL instances describe D2-instance. And somewhere in this output that comes out, I would find my IP address. If I scroll up a little more here, looks like there it is. IP address is 173.194.248.86. Yep, that looks right. What else do I need to do here? Well, I need to authorize a network. That's very easy to do. That's just gcloud SQL instances patch, again, D2-instance --authorized networks. What network do I want to authorize? Once again, my local IP address. Just going to paste that in there. Run this command and it's going to authorize the network for me. Update D2 instance. Lastly, we need to set the root password, and that's a slightly different command inside of the gcloud SDK. For that, I'm going to call gcloud SQL instances, instead of patch, it's going to be set-root-password. The name of my instance, D2-instance, then -- password, I'm going to make it the same one, Ben is cool. Hit enter, and watch it set the root password on my instance. So now I'm all set with my D2 instance as well, using the gcloud command line utility. Now let's see it in action. Let's actually connect to our database, and to do that first I'm going to use the MySQL Workbench utility. If you're not familiar with it, you download it straight from MySQL. It's just a nice user interface for working with MySQL databases. You launch it, click this little plus to create a new connection. We'll call it the Google Cloud SQL database. And then all I need is my host name, my IP address that I assigned to my instance. I'll start with my D1 instance. How about that? Copy this IP address onto my clipboard. Paste it in here. Set my root password. What's it going to be? It's going to be Ben is cool. Click OK. Click OK. Now I've got a new connection. Just give it a double click and it's going to launch the SQL editor for this database. Now I can work in here. I can create user accounts and set up privileges inside of my database itself. Or what you're most likely going to want to do is start creating schemas and tables inside of your database. I'll go ahead and do that here. Click Apply. Now I've got a new schema. Double click to make sure it's my active schema down here on the left. And I'm going to create a new table. We'll call this table Employees. And the first field I'm just going to call Name. And I'll make it a varchar 45. Sounds good. Does not need to be the primary key. We'll make sure it's not null. There, good enough. I will apply this table. And now I've got a simple table inside of my schema. I can see that over here on the left. If I open up a query, I can actually insert data into it. I could say insert into employees, name, values, Ben Finkel. Go ahead and execute that query. That's going to insert a name into my employees table. I could put another one in here. Let's call Alice Smith. Go ahead and insert that one in there. Execute it again. So now if I choose to select star from employees, you can see Ben Finkel, Alice Smith. I've got my table with my 2 employees populated in it. So MySQL Workbench, a nice easy way to do a lot of cool stuff like that. We can also do all of this through a client library. Let's say Python. Bring up some sample code here. This is using something called the MySQL connector object. You can see I'm linking it in right there. This is another utility downloaded directly from the MySQL website. You go ahead and get it, install it into your system. It's very easy to do no matter which type of environment you're running. And then you can use it and import it into your Python modules. And it's very easy to use once you do. First, you create your connection with the connector.connect command, passing in, of course, our root user and our password, our IP address, and I'm going to connect to the database new schema. That's the database schema that we just created inside of the MySQL Workbench. Then I'm going to go ahead and call an insert command. You can see here I'm inserting into employees a Jane Jones, so I'm going to make a third record inside of there. And then lastly, I'm going to execute a select from it and just iterate through the results cursor, printing out in my console the results. So this should be fairly easy and straightforward. It's important to note that when you're working with the MySQL connector, after you update data, you always want to call a commit statement here. And also, you want to try to wrap everything in a try except statement. You want to make sure that you catch and handle gracefully any errors that you get back while you're working with your database. Let's drop down to the terminal window here, and I'm just going to run Python mysql1.py. Go ahead and give this an execution. You can see it inserted the record. We didn't see any results out of that, but once I called my select statement, I got back Alice Smith, Ben Finkel, and Jane Jones. So again, you can see how using that IP address and that root user and password allows us to connect to our database as long as my local IP address has been whitelisted for that connectivity. Now, of course, you wouldn't want to use your root user and root password over and over and over. You just need to set that up initially. Then you want to log into your database and start creating local MySQL users, setting up their permissions, and that's the user groups that you want to do your work underneath. But you do need the root user initially to make your first connection. Alright, that finishes up this demonstration nugget, access and authorization. We saw how we could use the web UI to set up our external IPv4 addresses, as well as authorizing networks and creating an initial root password. Then we took a look at how we could do that in the gcloud SDK command line utility as well. Then we finished up by connecting to our database, creating some tables, inserting some data, and selecting it back out, using both the MySQL Workbench as well as a programming library, the MySQL connector, down in Python. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.